Hey everybody, in today's video I want to talk to you about frostbite. And of course, if you live in the southern states, you probably won't need to talk about frostbite, but maybe you could share this video with people who live in areas like I do where frostbite can be a major problem. Usually I will see frostbite a little bit on the combs, but there have been people who have had birds with frostbite so bad on the birds' feet and legs that the chickens can actually end up losing some toes or even parts of the legs due to frostbite. And in the second part of this video, I have my other rescue friend with me who's going to tell you her experiences with that, because she does have a couple of birds that have lost limbs due to frostbite. And I also have a video, actually the first video I ever did, in which I give you tips on how to prevent frostbite by doing certain things with your coop and your setups. And that is called Coop Tours and Winter Weather Tips. Again, it's an older video, but very, very helpful for winter month information. And so I want to tell you a couple things that I rarely see people say in the posts online where people discuss cold temperatures. And one of those things is that not all breeds are winter hardy. People rarely think about that, it seems, to consider whether or not the breeds you have are winter hardy or not. This girl here, the Wyandottes, they have a pea comb, a small comb that is close to the head. You will rarely ever see frostbite because it is such a small comb. But birds with a larger comb that sticks up, like Agnes here, she's a cream-crested legbar, those are the ones that get frostbite more easily. What I do for that is I use a combination of a little Vaseline and Neosporin to help with the healing process. Now, you don't want to use Neosporin with anything added to it, like there is a Neosporin with pain reliever added to it. That kind is toxic. You will need regular, plain Neosporin. And there is some small dots on her comb there. So I will go ahead and put that on the comb when she is up roosting at night. And the other thing that I want to mention is people always say, no, you don't need to heat the coop for chickens. I'm sorry about the poops there. It's so cold out, I haven't had a chance to clean the coops yet today. These heated panels are fire safe. And I have them plugged into a thermocube outlet, so at a certain temperature they will automatically shut off. These will not start your coops on fire. So again, pay attention to what breeds you have, and sometimes online what you read is not necessarily what I've experienced here. Hi, Tater. You'll probably read that silkies, like Tater there, are not cold hardy. But actually, my silkies do better in the cold than many of my other birds. So another thing you can do is find people that you know that have the same breeds as you do and ask and see how they do in wintertime. And again, this is how I heat my water. All this information, again, is in that other video. But let's go over to Brooklyn and talk to her about her frostbite birds that she has been healing up and rehabilitating.
Hi YouTubers, my name's Brooklyn. I'm good friends with Sarah. I'm also part of the Wisconsin Chicken Rescue. Today with me I have Pirate, who's in my right, kind of blending into my sweatshirt. And on my left I have Speckles. Both of these guys came to me with frostbite. I just want to make it clear that they came to me with frostbite and they did not have frostbite as they were living here. Both of these guys have very unique stories, very different treatment strategies I used, and I want to share with you their stories and treatments today. One thing I've learned between the two of them, that just like kids, chickens are very similar. I know it's a crazy thing to think and say, but it's true. You'll learn what I mean by that as you continue watching and I get to talk about these guys. So as I said previously, this is Pirate. He is just a little rooster, and as you've probably noticed by now that he has no legs. He came to us with only one leg. This leg was black. It did not move. He couldn't curl his toes, couldn't move it, nothing. It was basically just dead is the best way to describe it, and that's exactly what it was. Out of concern, I took him to the vet because I thought that the story that was given to me was not true, that he did not suffer from frostbite, but was in fact banded, and it was banded too tight. The vet disagreed with my theory and did say it was frostbite. We kind of figured because he is a smaller rooster, even though it's a little hard to notice because I'm wearing a black sweatshirt and he's black, that he potentially just got stuck outside in the cold. Rather it was in a snowbank or something and just didn't make it back to the coop at night. Which, with being in his location, this is very possible because there is a lot of snow that can accumulate up here. Most people are like, well, he's got no legs. How can he live? That's the biggest question I get, and my answer is he's just like any other bird. He eats, he drinks, and he can move around, no problem. I just want to touch back to what I had mentioned earlier about comparing kids and birds, particularly these chickens and roosters. As you may notice, we did very little, but as you watch on in this video, with Speckles, we did a lot. And it's kind of like if you think about when you have your first kid, you're kind of like, ma'am, I don't know what to do, and you're trying to make things work, and, you know, people are giving you advice and stuff like that. But by your second kid, you know a little more, you're working more. That's kind of the situation that happened here. You know, we didn't do a whole lot for Pirate, but he also was a different case than Speckles. So we're still learning, you know. So that's Pirate. Alrighty, everybody, so this is Speckles. As you can see, she too has lost both of her legs. If you know anything about vet care or wounds in general, you might notice that she lost them not too long ago. When she came to us, she came with both legs on, unlike Pirate, and she had clear blood flow going through them, all the way down to her toes and back, and we weren't sure if she was going to lose toes or she was going to lose feet. I did not want to take her to the vet because we pretty much knew that it was frostbite. We just weren't sure how we were going to handle it, so I had to sit down and do some research. Within doing that research, we tried different tactics with her, which I'll show you and talk about in a couple seconds. But she did end up losing her legs. They were days apart, unfortunately, and she has so far managed to walk. And she's, like Pirate, trying to learn how to use her wings more. Just like Pirate as well, she can also eat and drink like a normal bird. No matter what setup we give her, she seems to really prefer carpet more than anything. We had a little sleepover one night up in our bedroom, and she, instead of being on her little mat, decided she needed to sleep on our carpet. So that's just a little bit of her personality right there. As far as what we're going to do in the summer with her, we're not entirely sure. Still trying to come up with that idea, but for the meantime, in winter, her caging consists of, I have a little bit of a fencing going on downstairs in a circle, open top. I laid down a yoga mat because I tried using a yoga mat with her thinking it was soft, but apparently it wasn't soft enough to her liking. That has a little food and water dish to it, both sitting on the ground, and because we have a cement slab, I laid down a bunch of hay so it's nice and soft for her, and that seems to work out for her. So this was my second attempt at finding something for Speckles. This was built purely out of comfort. At this point, she didn't have any legs if she only had one leg, so she really didn't have to be mobile. And it's just a basic dog crate with the tray in it. On top of the tray, I used, this one in particular is for adults, but a pad and you can use like a dog training pad or piddle pad, whichever you'd like to reference it as. They're not too expensive, but they do add up in cost. So I use these type of materials for anybody who's sick and injured, just a temporary fix. If they were cheaper, I would love to use them over wood chips because wood chips tend to get messy. But this is just nicer to use, like I mentioned, in somebody who's not feeling well or, you know, in Speckle's case, gonna be disabled. You're probably wondering why there's a Cheez-It box in there. We use the Cheez-It box because that's what was simply around, but you can use whichever you want. And the reason that's in there is, as you can notice, her food and water dish tipped forward. So when the door closes, you could just push it up and it lays nice and flat for her, which made it easier for her to eat and drink out of her food and water dish. And then after that, I just used a old rag, towel, whatever you want to call it. I put her on top of it and drew some holes for her legs or her nubs. Nothing too fancy or perfect. And I also did it towards the middle of the rag so she could put some of her body weight on the front and some of her body weight on the back. And because she seemed to have leaned more forward, I cut this additional little piece to use as like a chest support. But I would have had to gone back to the drawing board with it anyway because it just seemed like it wasn't the most comfortable thing. So once I got my materials cut out, I used yarn at first to tie them up here, but I did not care for the way that it was holding. So I went to my parents and I got some baler twine and I cut holes parallel to each other on both sides. So basically what I did is I just cut the material like this, cut a hole in it, and ran one giant string. So this way there was less chance of malfunctioning. And I did that in the front and the back. And then this is just for that additional extra piece there. I could have ran another one to this piece up top, so in case this string failed, but I felt pretty confident in it. You know, it's baler twine. I didn't think it was gonna go anywhere. Another thing I used on Speckles too was this like wound cream type stuff. The reason I chose to use that is ever since I've learned about it, I've been like using it on everything, which is kind of crazy, but then it's like once I sit down and think about these things, it makes sense. So the reason I chose to use that is it keeps the area moistened, and it's really beneficial for their skin. Instead of that, you can use Vaseline or petroleum jelly or whatever, but I'm more comfortable using this for whatever reason. And at this point, you're probably like, what is it made out of? I used this petroleum jelly coconut butter, which for me I didn't have to buy because I've had injuries of my own that I've had to use it on. But now that I'm using it a lot, I've bought more, and it's not that expensive, especially if you get the off-brand. It's only a couple bucks, which is super nice, especially when you have a lot of these guys and things happen and you can use it on more than one thing. Besides the coconut butter petroleum jelly, I put some triple antibiotic in there, which also helps keep things moistened. And an ingredient that you would not think would be in there, but it is honey. My grandparents make honey, so it's fairly easy, and in fact, this has only been used on the birds. I haven't even eaten any of it. But the nice thing about all of these ingredients is they're cheap, they're not that expensive, and it could potentially save a limb. So this is Speckle's temporary winter pen that she's in. As you can see, there's a yoga mat. That is what the coral looking color thing is. That's not supposed to have any hay on it, but because she can't walk around like a normal bird, she's drugged some on there. And the tiny little green dishes are her food and water. And then the rest of it is a lot of hay. It keeps it padded, keeps it comfortable, so she's not sitting on a cement slab. And then for Pirate's little temporary winter home, he is in a little dog pet crate. His water is hanging, and his food is on the ground. He is also lucky enough that he gets a neighbor This is his neighbor Ash. He's a little bunny. The little guy wouldn't be able to live outside for winter, so he came in. And him and Ash are friends. The final tool I'd like to give you is the Chicken Health Handbook by Gail Damrow. The same person had written Raising Chickens. I found this book up in the Eeyore River Tractor Supplies, and I have found it to be very helpful. It covers all sorts of topics, all sorts of things. So just in case Sarah's videos don't help you and you need something quick and by chance we can't get back to you as quick as you need it, maybe it's in this health book and you can find it. I've referenced it many occasions, but on page 299 starts the frostbite category, and it just doesn't talk about frostbite, but it also goes into treating frostbite. It talks about dubbing and cropping, which, by the way, I would not recommend you doing on your own. I've never done it, but I've watched videos and it's not at all fascinating. It also shows you symptoms and signs of what to look for. Preventing frostbite, the Vaseline controversy, so it talks about Vaseline, and then it also talks about all sorts of other health techniques. Again, I've referenced it, but sometimes it's better to watch a YouTube video, and we only have so much time to make so many videos, so I would recommend getting this book. I only paid $25 for it, but in the long run it could save you. So again, just another resource, and they also Raising Chickens. I don't use this book as much as this one, so anything to help. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, stories you'd like to share with me, my name is Brooklyn Jelnick. I can be found on Facebook. You can also contact me through Sarah has my information, and the Wisconsin Chicken Rescue as well. So thank you.